Is being fat a choice? Middle ground. Being fat is 100% a choice unless you have genetic reasons for it. But 99.9% of people don't. But we're gonna watch this video to see what the conclusion is.
Between the people who are telling people go out and get fat versus a Lizzo who's saying accept me the way I am.
She's not just saying accept me the way I am. She's dressing extremely scantily clad and then saying
Facts.
if you don't think that it's normal for a morbidly obese person to be wearing a G-string in the middle of public, then you're the problem.
Facts. Facts. This is gonna be a controversial one. This is gonna be a controversial one.
Fat or skinny is a choice.
How? How did 37% of people only say it's a choice? How is it not a choice? How do you not consciously choose what goes in your body and how much goes in your body every single day? How do you not consciously choose that? Come on, bro. Let's start being real with each other.
Agreeers?
She got some fat ass footsteps. I can hear only her footsteps and she's the damn skinniest one here. All right, who's that? XQC?
Not every factor is
Holy shit, XQC! I didn't know you were gonna be in this video.
purely choice. I don't think that every factor is, but I do think a majority of it is. And in most cases, for most people,
Yep.
being skinny or being fat is about willpower. It's about
Okay.
the environment you grow up in, sure, but who you choose to associate with,
Yep.
what sort of things you choose to listen to, who
Yep.
you choose to kind of have as your friends around you and support
Very
you.
smart. This man's very
All
smart
of those
here,
things are
and he's a
choices
plus
that you
size
can
man.
make that will lead you closer towards being one or the other.
I know
Yep.
what I do with my body. I know what I put into it day
Mhm.
in, day out.
Yep.
I choose
Look.
not to eat some days.
Look, chat. He chooses not to eat some days. That's a little unhealthy. All you gotta do, MyFitnessPal. Look, only got 33 calories remaining for today. Yeah, I mean that's a damn zero sugar drink. I know every macro that has entered my body. That's all you have to do is just track your food. That's it. That's all you have to do. Oh my god, I have to type in what food I ate today. Oh, it's so much work. You spent an hour on Instagram today. Stop being fucking
I
lazy.
choose, how I want to look, and I don't fault anyone for how they want to look or how they want to be, but I think it's a choice at the end of the day. I'm
Facts.
very,
Facts.
always wish-washy on how I want to be presented and if I want to
Mhm.
gain weight or not.
Mhm.
But the only person that's going to gain the weight at the end of the day is me and me myself.
Yeah.
For me, it's calories in, calories out. Go to the gym.
Exactly,
You'll get
exactly.
buff. Don't go to the gym. You won't get buff.
Yep.
I understand that there's genetics that could cause you to want to eat more, but even with the genetics that cause you to want to eat more, the same solution is calories in, calories out.
I think
Facts.
that-
Chat. If that's all it is, bro. Literally, just wake up, choose the amount of calories you want to eat for the day. See if that amount of calories over a span of a week is going to make you gain weight or make you lose weight, and then you go from there. It's that simple. You can't spend 1 week of your life making a conscious, healthy choice on whether you want to be overweight eventually or if you want to lose weight eventually. That's all it is. Oh, I can't give up my honey bun. It tastes so good. You're a fucking loser. That's pretty much what you're telling
choices,
people.
Always depending on who they are, and it's not going to just be a thing done overnight.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of, I think it's like breaking the barrier and breaking a lot of things, not only your body, but also breaking your mental state.
Sure.
And again, that depends on who you are and what you want to go through.
Disagreeers?
Ooh, let's see what the disagreeers got to say. I see some plus size people and I see some smaller
I felt
people.
like as a child in a very
We're back, we're
poor
back, we're
home,
back.
so where my mom couldn't provide the meals that she could healthily. So when we would get like free meals, even then it would be like canned food, and it would be like very much food that's not as edible. It was food for us, yes, but then I felt like once it reached a point where I was old enough to try to make my own choices, I made all of the wrong choices. I wasn't eating, and I was only eating like grapes and lettuce, and that was mainly because I was in a sport, and that sport just worked me out so hard.
Okay, I'm gonna let her
And
finish
it
her
was
point.
to the point
I
where
understand what she's
just
saying.
was scared to eat. I didn't like it. I would only drink water.
When
That
you were
was-
eating grapes and lettuce, were you thin?
Okay, because she interrupted, I'm gonna interrupt her now, right? So I agree with what she's saying. If you're growing up in an environment, especially poor environments, you'll notice actually a lot of poor people are surprisingly big people because like items in stores and grocery stores, the healthy stuff is the most expensive shit, right? For example, I love eating the Gatorade protein bars. They come in like a 6-pack. Dude, a 6-pack of that shit is like $10, bro. It's ridiculously expensive for no damn reason. But it is what it is. Obviously, I get different kinds, but that's just what I like, right? Whereas I can go buy a box of snack cakes for what, $2, and it could realistically last me about the same amount that the protein bars would. You know what I mean? So for poor people, it's really easy to get fat, and especially if that's all you had to eat as a kid, you can't really change what you eat as a kid. You can't go, hey mom, stop feeding me fat people food because, well, that's all we have to eat. Sorry, that's what you're gonna eat. So I do agree on that standpoint that yes, if you were raised like that as a child, it's gonna be extremely hard to break that. It doesn't mean that you don't have the conscious will to be able to break that.
I was the thinnest I could be.
You
Were
can.
you still
I
big
was
though?
not, I was still big, but that was the skinniest I've ever been, and that's coming from somebody who was only eating somewhat salads that are just fruit and lettuce and water and maybe ice right before a practice.
Do you think that right now you would not be capable of becoming a thin woman if
I
you wanted to?
possibly would be capable of becoming a thin woman, but since I was young, I was supposed to get blood tested probably when I was very, very young, and I never did. And they had mentioned that it could have been because of my weight and how that connects with my thyroid. I never made the connection, and I never had like that like leaning parent to be like, go and get checked out, go and do this, like your
Yeah.
weight is probably not your fault. It was always like your weight is your fault, so that's your issue.
I mean, I also struggle with, thyroid and my own blood issues. I'm not quite sure, but I do see an endocrinologist and I go see a doctor. It's a choice to do the requisite steps. It's a choice
True.
to go grocery shopping instead of going to fast food when it's easy. It's a
That's
choice
true.
when you're grocery shopping to go to the outer aisles and like not go into the bread section and not go into the junk food section.
That's
These
true.
are all choices.
As a disabled
But to once again interrupt, if you can't afford those outer aisles, you have to go into the inner aisles where the more unhealthy shit is. But you also have the conscious choice to be able to make more money eventually. So then you can lead to be able to go to those outer aisles. So in even whatever your excuse is, 99% of the time, it still leads back to you having the choice of doing something or not doing it.
woman, I can't do a lot of the things that people say, calories in, calories out, oh, you gotta go work out and exert it. A lot of the things that are typical, oh, this is how you lose weight, put me in the hospital. I have to navigate weight differently. I have to look at it differently. My weight is the way it is because of medication, because doctors put me in this position. And I had to learn, okay, am I going to be so hateful of my own body that I am going to backlash and put myself through extreme gym nights, through keeping myself from eating things that I should be able to eat. You should be able to have a balance. You should be able to go into the junk food aisle like other skinny people do and still not have to worry about gaining 20 pounds.
But I don't think skinny people go
That's not how it works though. That's not how it works. She said hate my own body by going to painful gym nights, and you should be able to have a balance by going into junk food aisles. Yeah, I have a balance going into junk food aisles. Today I ate 2,500 calories. I have abs. I look better than I have in my entire life. And I'm not saying this out of vanity. I'm just saying just in general. And you know what I ate today for breakfast? A gigantic big Texas cinnamon roll that was 400 calories. But you know what I did after that? I said, okay, since I ate that, and especially for breakfast, which is crazy, I'm not going to eat junk food for the rest of the day. And so I didn't. I made mainly chicken. I had some protein bars. I had an Oiko's little Greek yogurt. That's all I've had, and I'm done eating for the rest of the day. I'm going to be up for maybe another few hours, but I'm done eating for the rest of the day. I made that conscious choice. You're talking about balance. Your balance is eating a honey bun in the morning, eating some cosmic brownies at lunch, and eating an entire bag of chips for dinner. That's not balance. Just because you ate a salad with all that shit doesn't mean you balanced it. Like, what kind of excuse is that?
Yes,
And in terms of her being disabled, I can't speak on that because I don't know what problem she has. She wasn't specific on that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, my DoorDash would tell you otherwise.
There's a thing called set points. There's a ton of research on it that your body likes to be at specific weights. It likes to be in
Yeah,
a
that's true.
specific way. So
True.
if you are fighting yourself to lose weight by not eating, over exercising, and you are damn near killing yourself to be at a specific weight, your body's unhappy.
It's important to note.
But with that being said, I think that weight, when it comes like dangerous or becomes like you start losing out on hormones and things like that, it's like around under 10% body fat for men. I don't know exactly what it is for women, but for men, I know it's around 10% body fat when you start getting like genuine problems if you stay there for an extremely long amount of time. So with that being said, right, your body likes, excuse me, voice crack, we're just going to edit that out of the video, right? Your body likes to do certain things that aren't good for it, but That's like that doesn't. I don't feel like that's an argument. I don't feel like that's an argument because your body wants to do it. You have to do it. No, that's something called discipline. My body crave. Like for example, if you're a drug addict and your body is craving the drugs that you want, does that mean it's a good thing to do? No. You're a drug addict to food. You can be addicted to food. Are you bad? Are you wrong because your body is telling you that you need that food? No, like you gotta have
A
discipline.
choice can be harder for
That point
people
came
who
out a little
have
weird, but
conditions in their life.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it's still a choice. I could say that I had food addiction. I looked to food when I was stressed and this and that and this. And so it's
facts.
harder for me to choose it than for someone who has like the perfect lifestyle, someone who has parents who are giving them this and that and this. But I definitely
Facts.
still acknowledge that it was my choice. At the end of the day, when I go there and I look and I see, should I order a second hamburger? I'm the one choosing whether or not I order that second hamburger. I'm the one
Facts.
making that choice.
Facts. And that's not to say even me being on a diet that, I'm not feeling hungry every now and then. Hell yeah, I am. Shit sucks.
How is this helping?
Well,
Jubilee Media.
thanks BetterHelp for supporting this channel. Now, let's get back into the episode.
I would rather be skinny than fat. Can the agreeers please step forward?
There's no way anybody doesn't. Bro, why are her footsteps so damn loud? What fucking, she got Godzilla feet. Odd ass shoes. How do only 3 people say yes to this? You would rather be skinny than fat. Being skinny is, even though being skinny is not necessarily healthy, being fat is way more unhealthy than being skinny. Why are we denying this? Like, there's so much evidence that points to this. Why are we in such a denial? What is
I
this?
think there's a lot of different struggles when it comes to being a bit bigger. And
Okay.
I have a sister that is very, like, she's 400 pounds and she struggles a lot. She has lymphedema and to shower is really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think for like an overall happy life and like zero struggle, I think I'd rather be skinny.
Yeah.
I think that it is common in society to want to be skinny. I think the average person typically wants to be skinny. I'm actually surprised that I didn't see more people come forward on that question.
Yeah, it's very
People
surprising.
treat you better. It is what is considered the standard of beauty. Your life expectancy is longer. You tend to be healthier.
I'm also really tall. I'm 6'6", so I kind of wish I could just pick a single struggle because finding the clothes and things like that when you're bigger both ways can make it really hard. So if I was skinny,
Yeah.
at least that's one less thing I have to worry about. But also, I've got 2 kids and a wife, and I'm taking care of them. And as you pointed out, I definitely think that I'm at less health risks if I'm a skinnier person, if I'm a healthier person in that capacity. And I would much rather be that so that I could be around for my kids longer.
I feel like that's the guy we're gonna see in like 5 years, like crazy gym transformation.
Agreeers, please step forward.
I'm speaking as someone who actually was a former smaller person, and I had the most body insecurities when I was small. I was constantly living in fear of gaining weight and having people tell me, oh, don't gain weight, don't do this, make sure that your weight is the same.
Mm-hmm.
And once
Okay.
I finally gained weight, I realized that first off, life wasn't over. I didn't feel any need to not engage in life the previous way that I had, and the attention that I got was different. But even as a smaller person, you get negative attention. And rather than trying to control my body to avoid that negative attention, I would prefer to address the situation as a society, make it more accessible for everybody to where we aren't feeling like I have to be a certain way that's normal in order to be treated like a human being and respected.
Okay, facts. Everybody should be treated like a human being and respected and loved. Counter argument. Are you going to let what other people say about you dictate your life and how you live your life? Yes, that's what she's saying. Why? Because if that's the case, then your life is going to be fluctuating this way, this way, because nobody's going to have perfect agreement on what you should be doing with your life. Everybody's going to have a different opinion somewhere. Your mom might want you to do this while your dad might want you to do this, but you're your own person at the end of the day. You cannot please every single body. So why are you making your decision of becoming overweight based on the fact that you didn't like people judging you and you were insecure on if you were going to get big or not? All you did was confirm your own fear. Like, that makes that's such a bad argument to me. I'm sorry, that's a terrible argument.
I could counter because I was a bit bigger when I was younger, And that's when I was the most insecure. I would look in the mirror. I did have family members that were skinny, but then I had a family member that was much bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And just the way that I perceived myself, I hated it. And I even became anorexic to like not be big.
I don't think
Yeah.
skinny always equates to being healthy.
Exactly.
That's facts.
I
That's
am
facts. That's facts.
Fairly skinny. I'm 6'5". I'm 140 pounds last time I checked. and I'm
Jesus, that's
severely
insanely skinny.
underweight,
Yeah, that's insane.
And I know about this on a day-to-day basis. That being said, I don't know where I'd want to lean at an appropriate weight level, but I think it's important to understand for
You
some
could get like
skinny
180,
people,
190. That'd be a good way for you.
we're not living a great life by any means.
Yep.
And sometimes I feel like that's always kind of lost in translation when they see someone who's really skinny.
Yes, sir. I used to be extremely skinny. Y'all can tell my wrist bones extremely tiny. I'm of that skinny build, right? And there's some days where I still feel skinny, even though I've been going to the gym for a year, dieting, all that stuff. People don't talk about that. It is unhealthy to be skinny. That was when I was at my weakest. Couldn't fucking pick up a damn can of soda. Like, so that that is something too. You don't want the extremes of either or.
Just like an average weight person, or are you thinking of how you are now?
I'm the average weight for like women in America.
I like
so
women, like,
Yeah,
if we're
that's
talking
true.
about
But not. Are you the average weight for women in America? I don't know. Is that true? I mean, I see a lot of girls that are built like her, but is that actually the average weight?
average, like I'm gonna be the closest. If your biggest priority
If that's the case, then America's failing as a damn society. If this is the average weight,
is to be at a smaller body, you need to reassess your priorities.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Not focused on health.
Yeah.
how? If your priority is to have a smaller body, you need to refocus. Is she saying you need to focus on health? Because that's the case, then having a smaller body is more healthy. Bro, what is this discussion? I feel like I paused so many. This is
Immediate
insane.
tie between
What?
skinniness and health, like you emphasized. There is such a gap between the research, because the research has a huge fat phobic bias in it, and there has been research that shows that they aren't, even especially during, let's say, COVID and the correlation between obesity. They rushed through those studies so fast because in society's mind, oh, of course a fat person is going to equal someone who's going to get sick faster, is going to get sick easier. It was an easy jump. So they didn't do
Yeah,
all
that
the
makes
testing that
sense.
they were supposed to do. They
There's
didn't
not.
check their bias.
So
They
if
didn't
by
check.
saying the study is biased, you're saying that the study didn't account for the variable that obesity may also take a factor into. It's just that there's so many variables in humanity that these pharmaceutical companies could only account for so many during their trials, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they're biased. However, you want to talk about bias in studies, actually recently we've been doing the opposite. So for instance, a lot of our studies have been based on BMI, and so we've been showing that fat people aren't necessarily
And
extremely
BMI
unhealthy because we
is
look at people with a
relatively
certain
inaccurate.
BMI. However, bodybuilders also have a really high BMI, and so they get counted into that category. And so it wasn't until very recently that they equated for that mistake, and it shows, oh my goodness, being fat is actually extremely unhealthy, like way, way more unhealthy than we ever realized.
You
Yep.
can't gauge health by looking at somebody.
Yeah.
Like none of my health issues.
Okay. Do you think I'm more healthy than you? Do you think I'm gonna have a longer life expectancy than you? Do you think you're more likely to develop things that will cause problems for your life expectancy than me? That's a genuine question, and you cannot sit here and deny the fact that someone who is of a relatively healthy, active lifestyle is more than likely going to live longer based off the average of statistics than someone who's fat and overweight, bro. There's no way you can deny that.
All of them precipitate.
Of course, you have variables of, yeah, a skinny person can get fucking shot, a skinny person can develop cancer, whatever.
Gain.
But that's
I've
the
always
extremes.
assumed, oh, don't you want to be skinny so that you don't have a cane anymore and you don't feel the way you feel? And it's like, no, because I have lupus and I'm always going to feel like this.
gonna happen
Like I
no
have
matter what.
CRPS. It's going to deteriorate. It's going to continue.
America has an obesity problem.
Yes. 100%. There's not a single person that should say no.
I think
The
it's
only
pretty
person
clear.
that
Look at
said
the weight of
no
the average American, you
is the one girl that hasn't said a single thing, and we're 13 minutes
how
into the video.
obesity has affected not just children. I mean, the fact that we have more younger and younger people who are looking heavier and heavier, and you see that, like, you know, the way that weight affects us as a society, and you compare that to how we were in the past. Now, not that we should always, you know, we shouldn't compare ourselves to the era of the Great Depression when people just couldn't find food, of course, but people are heavier now in an unhealthy way.
Never mind, that wasn't her. Never mind, that wasn't her.
Unhealthy. They are eating it through unhealthy access to food. They're eating diets high in seed oils. They're eating high corn syrup. They're doing all this kind of stuff that's not good for them that we didn't used to do, and it's bad. It's not a good thing. It's an epidemic. It needs to be quashed in some capacity.
There's so much access to just anything. Like, it's so crazy these days, and you know, I'm so surprised that we're actually supporting a lot of this, you know, and there's always people like, you know, like, it's fine that we have like 3 McDonald's like on the same street. And it's just like,
that's crazy.
we don't think that this is adding to the problem.
What I think is really sad about that is so many people in America just see the profit in it. I don't want to say I know that these people know the problem, but it's like, how can you not see the problem? They have to see it and just not care. They have to just be like, well, we're gaining profit. Do you see how much this McDonald's is making?
That's all they care about is profit and how much they can control.
It's not
How
even
it
just
is.
the corporations, it's the medical industry. Having a fat country makes us money.
It doesn't help that our cities aren't walkable either. America is a country of non-walkable cities.
That is why I wavered a little bit, because I think we have a problem with how to treat obesity. I think we have a problem with how to make it so that it is not an epidemic. This is a systemic thing, that we are in a society and in an environment that breeds this. And we are doing it to ourselves, we are doing it to our children, and our corporations and our industries are doing it to us, and they aren't having to take responsibility for
And
it.
they're encouraging it
True.
with media. So
And the
like,
mukbangs,
like the Lizzos and all that.
and like all those videos that just come up to
it's
trends for people
not
to do
only
it as
the
well.
mukbangs, but
Yeah.
also like Lizzo and other big like media people.
I'm sorry. There's a very big
difference.
difference between the people who are telling people go out and get fat versus a
I love
Lizzo who's
myself
saying
fat.
accept me the way I am.
She's not just saying
Right,
accept
but
me.
Lizzo is telling you accept her in her most unhealthy state. I'm not accepting someone who's unhealthy. I'm going to tell them to go get help. Are you going to accept someone who just got shot and say, oh, no, you're fine? No, you're going to tell them to go get fucking help.
The way I am, she's dressing extremely scantily clad and then saying if you don't think that it's normal for a morbidly obese person to be wearing a G-string in the middle of public, then
You're with good,
the
Gigi Jesse.
problem. And they're trying to normalize society.
Good day, bro. How you doing, bro?
This obese culture, which is extremely unhealthy. And
What is an obese culture?
a culture which like normalizes
I'm
America?
obese, I haven't even heard that.
Well, obesity is already normal, so
it's well, I don't think it should be normalized, and it wasn't normal
But
just a
what's
couple
the
decades
difference
ago.
between a obese person, myself, walking around in a G-string or a bathing suit, as I do almost every day, and a skinny person? Like,
You
is
mean
it
a
okay
noti
that the
for real?
skinny person is
Yeah, Twitch be
doing that?
tripping.
I don't think so, but
I don't think
That's
Yeah, no,
fine.
it's not. It's not.
I get the whole thing.
Yeah, that point, yeah, it's not okay for a skinny person to be walking around a damn G-string either. But you're showing off your body in certain ways, and
Which is to say
Lizzo's
that
showing
what
off in a certain
Lizzo
way
does
to
is the same
provide the fact that
as
she is
the
bigger.
Victoria's Secret angel
Why
is just
shouldn't
not
it
the
be,
same.
though?
Yeah, what's the
'Cause
difference?
what do you mean? Are you telling me they look? You're telling me it doesn't.
I'm not saying they look the same.
Well,
but
I
I'm
mean,
saying
Lizzo
what's
goes on
different
what's the
stage.
message?
implication? So
Yeah.
if I walk down the street, I'm a runway model. I'm a print and runway model. I have walked down a runway in a thong. So me doing that is shameful, but a skinny model is
Like a
okay.
Victoria's Secret
I didn't.
No, it's both of it is
I don't know
shameful.
if I use the phrase shameful,
Problematic.
but I don't think that we as a society should be modeling obesity.
So-
But I'm not modeling obesity. I'm modeling the lingerie that obese people need to be able to have availability to buy.
So they've always had the ability to buy
we have not.
lingerie.
If you go to Torrid,
No,
a single
we have
underwear is
not.
like almost $20.
Yeah.
And you go to like any other Walmart, any Target, and like all these underwears are on special for like $5 to like $20 and stuff.
well, it
and
does
it's
take
like
more fabric to make it.
It does take more fabric
They
to make
use
it,
that
but
as
it's,
an excuse, but
that
you
would-
True.
make yards of fabric
Yeah.
for gowns. You like
Is a
it's-
small a
and-
different price than an extra large or a large?
It
And-
is.
and
yeah,
we're willing-
for 3XL shirts, I got to pay more money.
I think people
Yeah.
view models and Instagram people and all of us who are plus size and proud as we're pushing this obese lifestyle.
Yes.
No, I'm pushing the fact that this is what I live in. This is my life, and I need other people who feel this way to say, hey, I want to be able to wear clothes that look cute too.
I do
Okay,
think there's
interesting.
a problem with obesity in America, but I think it's a first world country problem because it's spread across the globe. And
Okay.
also, I don't see it as a problem. I do feel like health wise, people
What?
should try to be healthier, but there's no perfect body. There's no perfect person. There's no perfect size. And there's
Okay.
people who are underweight. There's a
Yeah.
lot of them. And then there's a lot of people who are overweight.
Okay.
So I really don't see it as like a problem. But just to touch on what you were saying,
What?
because I
What
am
did she
in
even
the
just
fashion
say?
industry, I wanted to become.
What did she just say? What was her whole point? It depends on the brand. Some brands don't charge more for 3XL. Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be. It also depends on how much these people are printing. Like, okay, I'm going to assume that a Louis Vuitton 3XL shirt is going to cost an insane amount more than a medium shirt, even though they're both already expensive. Because I don't really see many overweight people wearing Louis Vuitton shirts. You know what I mean? So the supply is lower, but the demand might be higher. You know, something like that, right? But back to the point. What the hell did this girl just say? She said America has an obesity problem, but I don't think it has an obesity problem because underweight people and overweight people exist, and that's a problem. So does America have an obesity problem or not? What's happening? What?
Become a fashion designer. My dad was one. And they buy 10 rolls of fabric for one price. So it really doesn't
Okay.
cost that much to make underwear.
Sure, but don't you also
But
have
it
to worry about distribution?
it still does cost more though. Even if it doesn't cost that much more, it still does cost more.
I mean, if the average person is, let's say, in between small, medium, large, and you're sending clothes out for those, you know you could send out 10,000 of this, 10,000 of that, 10,000 of that. You can't always send out 10,000 3XLs because you're not going to have that many people fitting in the 3XL.
No, because there's somebody who works in marketing and they research that area. There's a census. So we have a database of what type of people are there. Now we don't know who's going in there, but we know the type of people that live in that area and the type of the people that come and visit the area. So
Right.
that person is doing their job accordingly, and usually large sizes are sold out.
Okay, so somebody brought up the food desert earlier. I can't even think of an area that would have a so-called food desert.
Sorry, can someone explain? Like maybe
the hell's a
someone
food
might be
desert?
I'm guessing a food desert is just there's no food anywhere.
No, it's healthy options for food. So
Oh,
you can
okay.
go into certain low
You know,
income
I disagree with Red Dress. They're 100% is food desert in low income areas. 100%.
areas, and you'll see a Starbucks, a McDonald's, a Chick-fil-A, but there's no Trader Joe's.
Hey, Chick-fil-A ain't that unhealthy. I love Chick-fil-A. Don't diss on my favorite fast food place.
Desert, actually, properly, there isn't any, like for a long period of driving, there's
Distance.
one gas station and a liquor store. Then you have to drive 2 more miles to hit the next grocery store.
But with the food desert, it's not just that there can be a grocery store there. But
Well, all
if
did you
I'm
react to so
making
far?
minimum
I
wage,
reacted to the
I'm not
Ian
gonna
dude.
spend all of my
I ain't
money
gonna lie, I did not fuck with
on
him. I
what
ain't
is
gonna lie,
gonna
bro.
last me
It's just not like low budget
meals
eat, bro.
versus what's gonna last me an entire week.
Yes.
Or if I'm
If-
on
Yeah,
EBT,
that's
I
true.
have specific things that I have to choose to buy versus what I can't buy.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
true.
Raised in Colorado.
Like for example, I'm gonna bring up this website, right? That you can order prepared meals, right? Now, obviously, it's gonna be a little bit more expensive because you know it's protein, it's already prepped for you. 50% off next month. It's $103 for 8 meals per week. You have 52 weeks in a year, so 108 times 52. So you're paying $5,616 for 8 meals. So yes, I will say that eating healthy and things like that is much more expensive, and the average low income person could not even dream of being able to afford $5,000 for meals.
In the outskirts, there's so many small towns that you don't even know that they're there. Most of them you won't see on a map, but if you're from there, then you'll know, and they all have to drive a decent amount to be able to go to an actual grocery store.
But how often are you going grocery shopping? Maybe like once every 2 weeks would be
I mean,
typically
I think it
normal. So you have to do
Like
a
once a
drive
week.
My
once
family, I gotta
every.
go once a week.
So you're making
Yeah.
a drive once a week, once every 2 weeks.
This
I
is
mean,
not
Not a lot of people have
drive.
access to the
Yeah, like, what
time
if I
and
don't have a
to-
car?
I was like, I don't
Like, I
drive.
don't even
And
drive.
if you don't have, usually these food deserts also have very poor public transportation options.
Yep.
So So
Like in the
you are
mountains.
left with people who are stranded.
Yeah, but then what are they eating at all?
Yeah,
Unhealthy crap.
Like,
No, but how
what-
are they
what-
surviving
what,
at
they going through
all?
the drive-through? They don't got a car to go to the
Yeah,
drive-through. How are
exactly.
They usually, what I see when I go to those rural towns and those rural places is they have chickens and they have animals.
Right.
And guess what? You can get some healthy
Healthy.
food out of that. That's
That
like, you know,
sounds
having
healthy.
eggs and protein and things like that. I think I would
True.
be healthier if I lived rurally. In fact, my wife and I are trying to leave the state so we're
That's
not
low-key
near all the
depending
Uber
on the
Eats and
same
all
if you're
the-
ordering
all
or
that
lunch
stuff.
every
I
day.
grew up in a town of 500. The obesity problem there.
Yeah, but that's the
was
thing,
not
though.
as significant.
Let's say, you know, the average meal is like $12. Yeah, about $12, right? You gotta think that's just for that one meal, though. You gotta prepare all the other two meals
As,
for the rest
say,
of your
in LA,
breakfast
like,
and lunch.
And we talk about like food deserts and stuff. The nearest
So
Walmart,
then,
right?
so then times that by 3. If you wanted to order a meal for 3 meals, then you're probably spending $15,000.
Grew up was 45
And
minutes.
the average low income person, I mean, what makes around $30,000 a year? I would say it's probably like low income for the average poor person, right? $30,000. If you're spending 3, you're getting 3 meals, then that's $15,000 because the other, 8 meals was 5,000. So you're pretty much spending $15,000 just for food. And that's, some of these people have kids, responsibilities, debt, all this shit, bro.
And
They
it's amazing.
cannot afford that
The
shit, bro.
nearest McDonald's.
So then I can go to the store and I can go buy a pack of ramen for fucking like $2 that'll last me an entire week.
nowhere near to be seen for a long time. So when I hear these, like, and there could be some evidence there as like the obesity problem is very low lift.
Were there grocery stores in your small town?
Yes.
Exactly.
Like I'm like kind of baffled by the idea that
Thank you.
Maybe I
me
just
too.
need to go out there and like experience the food deserts, but like there was grocery stores where I grew up. Just because we lived in the middle of nowhere doesn't mean we didn't have access to food. And actually, and I have to agree, we did have access to healthy food, very healthy food all the time. I don't think this is big of an issue in my personal opinion.
It might
Fat
have been more expensive
shaming
though.
is worse than skinny shaming.
No, not at all. There's no way you can agree with that.
So I do agree that fat shaming is worse than skinny shaming. Just overall,
How?
entirely the way that people
Do we mean worse morally or worse as in it happens more?
comment on people's weight compared to somebody skinny. They usually don't comment on somebody skinny. They don't.
That's
think there's something
completely
wrong with
cap.
them. They don't.
That's complete cap. I literally used to be a skinny
They'll
person.
maybe say like, "Oh, you're very thin. Do you want to eat a cheeseburger?" But that's not as bad
That's
as telling
skinny
somebody, "You
shaming.
eat 10. Stop," and you don't even know that they're eating 10.
That's
Fat shaming
that's the
is
same thing
a systemic
psychologically for
problem.
someone who's skinny.
You're not gonna not get a job because you're too skinny. Skinny bodies are praised in our society, whereas fat bodies, like I don't get
And
it
you
as
would not
often
get a job
as
if you're too
other
skinny.
people, but I get a lot of comments on my Instagram that are saying like, you're really beautiful, but you would look a lot better if you lost 50, 60 pounds.
I think that skinny shaming isn't as common as fat shaming, but if we're talking morally speaking on it, which one is worse, both of them are bad on the same comparison level. But skinny shaming still happens. There's no way you can say it doesn't happen, or isn't that
Something
common?
that I always get a
Went
lot
through that
of
shit
comments
goddamn
on
every day.
is
Like I went to
that's
fucking
the
public high school.
as a man because of how skinny I am. It's always something that I
Yep,
always
there you
get
go,
like,
see.
my favorite comment is always I look like a sickly ill Victorian child. And
That's horrible.
That's crazy.
no, I don't. It doesn't bother me as much, but this idea that skinny people can't also get these kind of comments are just kind of mind blowing. That doesn't mean that they're, that one side is getting it worse than the other. I think that they're both sides getting piled on, just at different varying degrees.
I think we're conflating two things as well. So there's a difference between fat shaming and fat discrimination. Fat shaming
Yeah.
is an aspect of fat discrimination.
Search up and
Some of the
watch
things you were touching on are
Eugenia
specifically
Cooney after this, okay?
societal and systemic fat discrimination that goes into our medical system. It goes into employment. It goes into all of our civil rights. As fat people, that skinny people don't necessarily have that same issue. And I come from cultures where they straight out called out skinny people. Oh, you look like bones. Oh, flaca. All of that. So I watched my cousins go through it. I went through it when I would get too skinny. As people, we are just too scrutinized when it comes to our bodies.
Yes, I think it really depends on the culture. So I'm a mixed person, right? So I'm able to be in both cultures, with both my families and also just my friends and things like that, and have an understanding of both sides pretty well. In Black culture, it's much more understanding to be overweight. Like they don't really comment on it as much. But if I was ever to be skinny shamed, it would mainly become from people of Black culture. Whereas if I was never fat, but people who typically fat shame are going to be people who are like Caucasian people or European, things like that. So I kind of agree with her on
Don't
that
let
point.
people live.
But I think that's a good point. You said you were called Skin and Bones when you got
Not
to
I, my cousin.
but your cousin. So people using shame as a motivator to get your cousin to not be too skinny. Shame as a motivator is a powerful tool. So the reason I sit over there is fat shaming worse than skinny shaming. Well, you could argue that shaming somebody in order to motivate them towards a healthy lifestyle is actually a good thing. Now, I have a lot of empathy because hearing your story about how you've been struggling with this since you were a child.
Since I was like a newborn baby, like health, just everything's just been on that end where I've never known anything about being skinny or being fit or being athletic. I've never known anything about that.
Probably your situation, I don't think shame necessarily would motivate you, but for somebody where it is a option, so for instance, if you watch TLC, you watch My 600-Pound Life, 1,000-Pound Sisters, Family by the Ton, all of them can do it. All of them have had this systemic issue
That's
of
the thing
weight
though, I
gain.
have watched those like as a younger person and it would make me feel disgusted with me when I was a kid, so it would make me worse and it made my mental health worse because then I'm like, is that how like everybody automatically views me as just like somebody who's oversized and could possibly never even attain it because it's so just common.
I don't think we should shame anyone to do anything.
No.
I think everyone deserves to like themselves enough to like enjoy life. And if you do that as a fat person, okay. If you do it as a skinny person, also chill. It's not my business.
Shame is a broad category. I do think shame works in some cases. I think that there has been good fat shaming towards me and bad fat shaming. Bad fat shaming is just, somebody just saying, you're fat, things like that. That doesn't really work. But what does work is somebody looking at me and saying, don't you want to be around for your kids? And that worked.
I don't think
that
that's
worked.
shaming.
Yeah, like, do you
think
consider that
that's-
shame?
Yeah.
I do. I think that's shaming. I think they were telling me like you should lose weight to be around for your children. I
Yeah,
think that's shaming.
I would consider that shaming just or maybe just I'm disappointed in you. I'm disappointed in the fact that you do not care enough about your children to want to increase the chances of you being alive for their future. I think that would work very well. Just in the same sense, like if I was still super skinny and I had kids and someone was like, I'm disappointed in the fact that you don't want to be stronger for your children just in case someone was to endanger them. That would work on me.
An attempt.
Whereas someone who's just like a fucking skinny loser or you fat motherfucker like that, then that's just like that's not really constructive. That's just you're just being an asshole.
Like they're personalizing
encourage
it
me.
towards you and towards your kids. Like,
Sure.
of course, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that worked. I think that worked. That really encouraged me to go to the gym and start trying to lose weight.
But that's you though.
Sure.
Like,
I think you have to be specific to the person.
I think that's one thing is it depends on the person.
Sure,
And
sure.
if someone wants to shame me and like, it depends on the person. I've been shamed a couple times and it's kicked me into gear to try to gain weight, but
Right.
it's still really hard.
Sure.
And it's, it depends on who you are, I think.
When you were making a comment about
Sure, I
the
guess it
question
depends
of
on who you are, but
masculinity, I get the question of actually looking like a woman all the time, and it's always in play. I always get compared to like male characters, especially when I don't wear makeup, and that's because I don't have boobs, and I can't help that, but it's definitely really, really hard to like have people tell you constantly, like, here's the standard of how a woman should look, and you don't look like that, without even saying it. They don't say it, they're categorizing me, they're making fun of me, saying that I look like this one soccer player or something. And I think it's funny, but also shame can also be hard because I can see what you mean. Sometimes it can really motivate you when it's out of love, but when it's out of
that's the
pain
difference.
and when it's
Yeah.
out of like not knowing someone
Yeah.
and just saying
Just
it, then
viciousness.
Yeah, the people who said that to me about my kids were not just some random guy online. It was
Right.
people who were close to me and I knew cared about me, who I'd had conversation with. So I do think it matters who says it, but I still would consider it to an extent shaming. And
Facts.
I'm okay with that. I think there is good shame. I think sometimes it helps motivate people in the right way.
The body
Facts.
positivity movement promotes childhood obesity.
I don't know. Maybe a little bit. I don't know.
Diet culture has positive effects.
Yes, that's true. That's very true.
I guess for me,
Did I skip?
diet culture is an important thing to have for people in the world. What I've realized after we're about to finish this up is there wasn't a lot of talk on skinny culture or like skinny people as a whole. Maybe that's because of how the prompt is. But I think it's important if we're going to give positivity to kids who are obese, I think it's important to give them the options to, you know, say if they want to lose weight, they can. And I don't see a problem with that in any real sense.
Yeah. I think to solve this problem, you have to be able to tell people that just because you're overweight doesn't mean you're any less of a human, but it does mean that you're more likely to face health complication, and it's not a healthy thing to do, and you should not strive to be unhealthy.
I think that diet culture is a reason that a lot of people struggle with weight problems in the first place. I have even struggled with my own weight issues in the past, and I was like struggling kind of with depriving myself too much because I had a trainer, and then I started binge eating. And as soon as I had like a mental break where I was like physically incapable of stopping myself from putting food in my mouth, I immediately went to see a doctor, and that doctor told me to read a book called Intuitive Eating, and it wildly changed my life. And it was about getting past diet culture and about how so many people ruin their lives with diet culture. And you see it with like somebody talked about eating grapes and lettuce, and it's grapes and lettuce, and it's just like it's this extreme, and so you go from one
you don't need to go
grapes,
insanely
and
extreme.
the other extreme, and so like I was in my extreme, I broke, so that's why I'm anti-diet culture.
Yeah, I tried
That makes
keto
sense.
for a
That
while.
makes sense. Keto is a
And
fucking
the thing
scam.
about-
Do not
what I
do that
realized
shit.
is like that fad diet kind of stuff. And yeah, did I lose weight? I absolutely lost weight, sure. I didn't keep it off, and the reason I didn't keep it off is because diet culture is about turning the word diet from your overall eating into an activity that takes place over a period of time. A diet should not be something you do from January until May of next year. Diet is what you continually eat, is what you continually put into yourself. Yeah.
Lifestyle.
Yeah. So my issue with diet culture is this idea of like, oh, I've got this perfect solution for you, man. All you got to do is this, and this, and that. And it's like, no. Like the reality is like, yeah, there are good, correct, and objective ways, I think, for a lot of people to eat. And yes, everybody has to have some variations here and there. There's no one bag fix all, and diet culture is so much about trying to say like, all you got to do is just eat cheese puffs every day for the rest of your life. And
It's easy.
yeah. And so that's why I think diet culture doesn't help.
You know, you're always going to get those people who have the perfect answer. They have the perfect solution to either lose weight, or diet isn't just losing weight, it's also gaining weight. You know, and I think a lot of people, maybe it's just for me, but when I diet, it's actually not the opposite of fasting. I'm trying to eat more. I'm trying to gain more. And I think people forget that when it comes to diet. When people instantly hear the word diet, they think losing weight. And I don't think that should always be the case.
I've been on a lot
It's
of
true,
diets.
and gaining weight can be harder than it seems, bro. Because when I was bulking and trying to gain weight, bro, it got to a point where the only way I could gain weight was eating about 4,000 calories a day. Oh my God. You know, dude, for people who understand, bro, I mean, I would be up at like 2 a.m. drinking a damn protein shake, eating like tablespoons of just peanut butter just to try and get something in my stomach so I could hit that calorie goal. So yeah, you know, diet culture, it can be toxic, but it's kind of if you let it get to you. It depends on how strong you are mentally.
Diets, and I've been put on diets by my coaches. So when I was young, I felt like it was more so like fasting, not eating, but working out, and maybe hopefully eating once you get home as a reward. And then
That's not how it should be, though.
Like, oh, like you're a good person in the team to like be the big person, be the defender, be buff. So it was like, now we have to gain all this weight and we have to pound you out. So it was like I had to eat like 5 meals in a day. And
Yeah, no, that's crazy.
I felt so gross because I was just like, I've never had to like pull out like a bar or something and like eat it during class and be like, I have to eat this because it's part of my diet.
When we talk about diet culture, we're talking about not your diet as a whole. It's usually a fad diet is what we're talking about when we're talking about diet culture. And for me personally, I know that I've seen a lot of, especially women in my life, going on fad diets that are just not sustainable. And that's kind of the purpose of diet culture, is that it's not a sustainable thing.
But we're all talking about like mainstream, like keto, like gluten-free. And I think everyone's just polarized on these certain ones that I believe that you should eat gluten. I think if you take it out of your diet, you're actually going to get sick.
Unless you
Unless,
are
celiacs, celiacs, no, like, yeah.
It goes back to
Yeah.
like what she said, which is, you know, intuitive eating.
So what is the positive you think you've seen for people from diet culture? Which I think, and I guess, what do you consider diet culture?
I guess like diet culture to me is the resources you need to get to where you want to be in your life, in your body. That's how I've always viewed diet
By
culture.
dieting, do you mean like journaling what you're eating?
Yeah, if you want to journal, if you want to, you know, talk to a therapist, if you want to work out, if you want to see a doctor, if you want to go on meds, like everyone's
But
always.
it's not being super, like when you diet, you're not being like, I'm completely cutting out carbs or I'm completely doing this, right?
Drinking lemon water only.
Yeah, no.
Are you,
talking
you're
about
like
restrictive.
watching
You don't
your
have to do that.
macros and your micros and you're calculating.
Like,
That's all, yeah, that's all
you're
dieting
asking
is.
If I know how many calories I have to eat, yeah, like I have to eat like 4,000 a day.
When most people talk about
Yeah.
diet culture, they've done some sort of extremely restrictive thing, and when you do something really restrictive, it changes your brain chemistry and the way that you think about food, and it makes you obsessive over food, and then, but it sounds like the way that you're doing it is extremely healthy because you're not depriving your body of something.
But isn't that just goes back to like you guys are talking about the extremes of diet culture?
Diet culture is one thing, and then a healthy lifestyle
Having a
and
healthy
intuitive
diet
eating,
is
I think,
different.
are two different
Yeah,
things.
that's different.
I personally don't think of living a healthy lifestyle as a diet.
You've been in like model spheres. Do you see diet culture and how has it impacted the space?
There was a point in my life, like when I was a junior in high school, where the person that I was with at the time, he's like 6'6" and super tall. And so, you know, the mom was like, hey, like my son is gonna go audition to this big agency, which is still big to this day, and you know, you should come. So I went, and I weighed 115 pounds, and I was a D cup, and they said that I weighed too much.
Yeah, that's
And
crazy.
So seeing that really struck me in the beginning with the negative part of dieting, and just kind of went into this spiral of like, okay, well, if I'm too big, then what are people doing to not be this size? Like how can I make it to do what I want to do if this is my limitation to it? It took years later to realize, like, shit, I was really disciplining myself for no apparent reason except for this underlying feeling from years ago that I could never get rid of. When you're talking about like discipline, I think it can be really positive with dieting and like intaking your calories, but for me personally, and I'm a very specific case, seeing those numbers and knowing that I couldn't achieve it because I didn't have the appetite was also just so saddening to me, because reading the bare minimum of what a woman needs, 5'5" at my age, I was like, that's not that much, and I still couldn't eat it at the time, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? There's different
Yeah, it
ways
is
to
hard as hell
motivate
to eat,
people,
bro.
and one of them
It's
is
hard as
out
hell
of
to eat.
pain and anger, and I feel like a lot of the diet culture, whether it's for positive or negative, is just trying to gear into that. And you know, I just am more about being healthy.
I hear diet and I think of something that's positive, and it's been positive to me, and you know, it's something I'm always trying to achieve. I guess like if we were to redo the same exact question, I may hesitate and not walk across the line. I guess I'll never know, but hearing these perspectives were really good because I probably didn't know
It's
as much
interesting
about
perspectives.
I
Yeah.
want to thank all of you for sharing your opinions with us and for challenging us. I really want to thank you. I
W
thank
video.
you for the
W video, the body positivity movement promotes. Oh, they didn't show them. W video. So yeah, let me know what y'all think though. What do we think about that? That was interesting. That was interesting.